Hey, what's up, guys? I want to give a huge shout out to Jaginoff before I do this segment on this video, because there's particularly one segment I know about Jacksonville, and I was going to do a video on them. Is I feel so bad for their fans, their loyal, patient fans that have been going through this whole process, the whole patience on the Shotgun Gus Bradley regime, which just recently ended after they blew a 20-8 lead last week at Houston and lost 21-8. That ended up being the last straw for Gus Bradley as he got the moving truck. But Blake Bortles, I have no idea what happened to him. I really didn't. I mean, he's without question having his worst year, even worse than his rookie year. But, of course, I mean, it's not entirely Blake Bortles' fault. He doesn't have a running game. They do not have a running game under Chris Ivory, TJ Yeldon, and Denard Robinson. I think they're pretty stellar if they actually were able to use the run. But the second part of their equation is they have no offensive line. Their offensive line's so bad, but I think the biggest component is because their offensive line is so bad, it's rushing Blake Bortles into making decisions he doesn't have to make. I still think Blake Bortles is a good quarterback. I don't care what anyone says. He has to live and coincide with a terrible offensive line. And then on top of it, he keeps constantly throwing the ball to Allen Robinson, and Allen Robinson's literally, this guy went from one of the best fantasy draft picks to one of the big busts in 2016. Allen Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, he's had one game, I think one game he's gotten over 100 yards in a single game, and that was that game against the Texans when they lost 24-21 in Jacksonville. But my point is, I feel sorry for the fans because those fans are so loyal to a team that has been driven to the ground by a terrible owner in Shad Khan, because I don't think Shad Khan knows how to run this team. And I'm saying the fans deserve so much better. They really do. Because it's just gotten to the point where that team's not watchable. But then you have guys like Tekken and Jaginoff that are just so loyal to their fan base. As part of the fan base, they are one of the loyal groups of people that are loyal to a team that's obviously having a bad year. They've lost 9 in a row. And I don't know what their problem is of playing at home, particularly Everbank Field, because it seems like every year they're in London. But they had their 2 wins. They won in London. They win in Chicago. But then they can't win in Everbank. But then yet, they made all the offseason acquisitions this offseason. They added, of course, well, technically 4 pieces on defense if you count the draft. Jalen Ramsey's a monster. Jalen Ramsey's going to be a really good player. And, a little bit of me kind of says, Dallas could have used a corner, but then yet look at what Zeke Elliott's done for us. But Jalen Ramsey, he's going to be one of the best rising young talents in the league. And then they picked up the defensive tackle from the Broncos, Malik Jackson. They picked up Tashawn Gibson, a intercepting pick-6 returner from the Cleveland Browns. And then they picked up Prince Amukamara from the Giants. But I think they need to let Jonathan Cyprien go. I mean, he's the weak link out of that secondary. I think if they were to get a safety, they might have a good defense if they get another safety. I think their D-line's pretty good. I don't know much of their D-line, although I know Sinderick Marks, Malik Jackson, and I think there's one more. I'm having a brain cramp, but Sinderick Marks and Malik Jackson are the 2 that stand out. But my point in this whole thing is Jacksonville needs to be patient. Just wait it out the last 2 games. You'll have another really good draft because I think they really should go for either LSU's Leonard Fournette or, I mean, if they so decide to let go of Blake Bortles, which I don't think they should, if they let go of Blake Bortles, they need to go for Lamar Jackson. Because I think Lamar Jackson would excel down in Jacksonville. But I also think they need to get a tight end. They also got Julius Thomas the year before, and Julius Thomas isn't the same player. But, of course, that's what happens when you downgrade from the level of Hall of Fame type in Peyton Manning to the rookie third-year quarterback Blake Bortles. I mean, that's just how that goes. But Julius Thomas, I haven't seen anything out of him since he went to Jacksonville. But I just hope that Jacksonville gets it turned around and that they finally do something for that fan base. Obviously, the best thing that they did this year was firing Gus Bradley. But I will say this about Gus Bradley, they should have done it last year rather than do it this year. Because if last year was any indication that they should have fired Gus Bradley then, because it's got people like, well, why would they fire him with 2 games left? If they were going to fire him, they should have fired him either last year or they should have let him finish out the season and then scrape their whole coaching staff, because their coaching staff's bad. Their offense coordinator's bad. Their defense it's actually pretty good. I mean, Jalen Ramsey's a big upgrade to that defense, specifically the secondary. And then, I mean, what this year will indicate is next year they will be much more disciplined. And I hope Jacksonville excels in the future.